Jesse James, the last legendary outlaw of the Wild West. One of the most frequently mentioned figures in 19th century American history, Jesse James is viewed by some as a folk hero and by others as an outlaw. Born in Missouri, James rose to prominence in the turbulent period following the American Civil War. His life has been both admired and intensely criticized, making his story not only a personal biography, but also a reflection of America's evolving socio-political landscape. Jesse Woodson James was born on September 5, 1847, in Missouri. His family lived a largely agricultural life and supported the Confederacy during the Civil War. At a young age, Jesse joined Confederate guerrilla forces known as Quantrill's Raiders, alongside his brother Frank James. Throughout the war, these units were involved in raids that sometimes targeted civilians, and Jesse's name became associated with such controversial actions. The trauma and instability of the war had a lasting impact on Jesse, influencing many of his decisions in the post-war years. Like many former Confederate fighters, Jesse found it difficult to adapt to the new order. After the war, Jesse and his brother Frank became involved in a series of robberies. Over time, Jesse emerged as a leader of the infamous James Younger gang, known for robbing banks, trains, and stagecoaches. These high-profile crimes captured public attention across the country. To his supporters, Jesse James was fighting back against institutions of wealth and power, particularly banks that symbolized oppression to many in the defeated South. After the Civil War, many Southerners were plunged into poverty, and resentment toward Northern financial institutions intensified. Banks were not only seen as sources of economic control, but also as enforcers of Reconstruction policies that many in the South viewed as punitive and exploitative. In this environment, figures like Jesse James were seen by some as avengers of Southern pride and resistance. Some even likened him to Robin Hood, imagining that he stole from the rich to give to the poor. This romantic image was amplified by sensationalized newspaper articles and dime novels that portrayed James as a charismatic outlaw, defying corrupt systems. Jesse himself contributed to this narrative in letters sent to the press, in which he framed his actions as politically motivated and presented himself as a victim of injustice rather than a mere criminal. However, there is little concrete evidence to support this claim. No reliable documentation proves that Jesse or his gang ever shared their loot with the impoverished. In reality, the proceeds from their robberies were kept within the gang, and their crimes often resulted in violence and civilian casualties. The Robin Hood myth appears to reflect the public's desire for a symbolic hero during a time of social and economic upheaval, rather than the actual deeds of Jesse James. Jesse James's mythos grew rapidly during his life and after his death, largely fueled by the media. Newspapers played a significant role in shaping public perception, casting him either as a rebel hero or as a dangerous outlaw. This dual narrative makes it difficult to reduce Jesse James to a simple label. His story mirrors the contradictions and cultural shifts occurring in post-war America. Jesse James was shot and killed on April 3, 1882 by Robert Ford, once a trusted member of his own gang. At the time, Jesse was living under an alias in St. Joseph, Missouri, attempting to maintain a low profile as law enforcement pressure increased. Robert and his brother Charles Ford had been secretly negotiating with Missouri Governor Thomas T. Crittenden, who had placed a bounty on Jesse's head in a bid to bring the infamous outlaw to justice. On the morning of his death, Jesse and the Ford brothers were in the parlor of his modest home. As Jesse prepared to dust a picture hanging on the wall, he removed his gun belt, perhaps out of comfort or trust. Seizing the opportunity, Robert Ford drew his weapon and shot Jesse in the back of the head. James died instantly, collapsing to the floor while still facing the wall. The killing sent shockwaves across the nation. Some viewed Ford as a coward and traitor, labeling the act a cold-blooded betrayal. Others, particularly law enforcement and political figures, saw it as the long overdue end to a criminal who had long evaded capture. The fact that Jesse was unarmed and unaware at the moment of his death only added to the controversy. The Ford brothers were briefly arrested and charged with murder, but were quickly pardoned by the governor, fueling speculation that the entire affair had been orchestrated from the top. The dramatic and almost theatrical nature of Jesse James's death added a tragic final note to his legend, cementing his status not just as a historical figure, but as a lasting symbol of betrayal, myth, and moral ambiguity in American folklore. In the years following his death, Jesse James became a figure of popular culture, inspiring books, songs, and films. His legacy remains one of the most debated in American history, neither a pure hero nor merely a villain. Jesse James's life is a complex tale that cannot be understood without considering the historical context in which he lived. To understand him is to examine not just his actions, but the social and political environment that shaped them. Jesse James continues to be a symbol of America's blurred lines between justice, heroism, and criminality, an enduring figure who challenges us to question where those lines are truly drawn.